Okay, let's see. Hey, everybody. Who's here? Anybody? I know all my girls said they were coming in, so.
No worries. We're technically just hitting 9 now, so people may be still
Yeah.
showing up.
Oh, I don't even see anybody, so I lag a lot here because I'm so far behind. It does is my do I look okay to
Oh, you look
you?
great. Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
It's not fuzzy.
No, no.
Okay,
If anything, I feel
last
like I
time
look
it was
fuzzy right now.
funny. Last time it was fuzzy. So
No, you look good.
okay, there. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We'd like to welcome Josh back from Know Your Slots. We'll wait for a few more people to come in. I know we got some coming. So, hey,
Absolutely.
Jackie. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, Jackie, sorry that you're not with us tonight.
Yeah. She's not in the chat. I miss my wingman.
I'm going to start out up front by apologizing in advance if you see me occasionally coughing. I've had a cough I haven't been able to get rid of for a month, and so
Oh, no.
I will
How was your
make an
trip?
effort
You
to.
looked like you had a fabulous trip on your cruise.
The cruise was wonderful. It's
Oh,
still a different type of experience because there's not full ships yet, so you do have less people on the ships, less competition. But there's times when you felt the crowds more so than last summer. So still a very good trip. But definitely if you're looking to stay away from people right now, it's just a hard thing to do on a cruise ship. You have to expect that. So just
yeah.
something to keep in mind if that's what you're looking into.
Yeah. Hello, Roxy. Hey, Mega. Hi, Fred.
Hello,
How y'all
everyone.
doing? So we got Josh here, and what we're gonna talk about tonight is the new MGM Rewards program. That's what it's called now, compared to the M Life, what it used to be. And I'm just gonna I actually just kind of updated Josh on my last trip, and I'll let you guys know a little bit, and then he can maybe pick apart what I said. And we're going to talk a little bit more. He's got a question from some of our fans on his page that watches us as well, that he's going to answer. And we're going to talk about Theo and ADT, if anybody knows what that is. Hello, Ronnie C. And Anna. Anna,
And
hey, a little bit. How you doing? A little bit. Hey,
I hear the
Vegas.
bonus is really hard to get during these live chats, but we're gonna try.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so anyways, you guys, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my last trip because I started at zero. So I made platinum last year, okay? So I made platinum. I started in February at zero. So I have till I think it's December 31st to make my platinum again if I can make it. I don't think I'm going to because it has changed drastically. So we'll see. Who knows? But anyways, so my last trip in February, I went for 3 nights. I was just telling Josh I took $1,200 and I had 500 in free play. And I everybody knows from our premiere how many I got that big jackpot, and I got a couple of other big wins, which was 600, 750, 600, and that's not even including all my little 200, 300, or whatever play. I played. So that doesn't include that. So my coin in for that 3 days was $18,350. Now, I I racked up in points, and you got to remember this is double. I racked up in points 34,000 and something. It was just a little bit over. So that is double points. You got to think. So normally, if it was only a one multiplier, I would have only received 17,000. So this trip, that trip, if it was normal, and I played all my jackpot money back in, so that's what helped me get along in my points. I didn't take any more money out of the bank, nothing. I
So
just
Can we
What's
pause
that?
there for a second?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things I want to underscore here. So actually, hearing the numbers again, I need to correct what I said to you beforehand. So let's presume that an average strip casino pays something like 90% back, right? So if you put $100 in over time, you would expect $90 to be paid back to you in terms of wins. Now, they could be gigantic wins like your hand pay. It could be small wins like $100, right? But like slots over time, they sort of approach this normal. And when we talk about Theo and ADT, that starts to come into play as well, right? So if you brought $1,200 and you had $500 in free play, that's a total bankroll, we'll call it, of $1,700. You did $18,000 in coin in. So if I drop a zero, that's the 10% they would keep. That's about 1,800. You had 1,700, so you your payback was a little above 90%. So this is about an average trip, right? Like you didn't overachieve and walk home with like big wins that took you above or beyond the average, but you also didn't get skunked, right? Where maybe you had a really rough
Right.
time.
I come home
I've
with
had
500. I come home with 500 of my dollars, which I was happy with.
Sure. So,
Like,
like I've had times where I've gone to MGM Grand and only had a 60% payback on my time in that casino, right? So there are times when you just can't make anything happen. So that wasn't the case here. So what I wanted to share was I was in Vegas in January before the rules changed. So the old point system was still in place for one final month beforehand. I did $10,000, just shy of $10,000 in coin, and it was like 9,900 and change. And my payback was roughly what yours was, but I earned 32,000 points on that. And you earned 34,000 points with a 2x multiplier on almost twice as much coin in. One of my biggest fears about the changes with MGM Rewards was the tiers all looked basically the same in terms of numbers, but they were no longer going to tell us how quickly you earned points. And it sounds like they're ultimately moving Vegas to the non-Vegas system, which was much lower point earnings for your gambling dollar. Similar to Borgata, MGM Springfield, MGM National Harbor. A lot of those of us who are on the East Coast are very familiar with these.
boo.
It's 4 to 5 times harder. So you take that
Yes.
multiplier out, and I think that's exactly what's happening here, which is a bummer. Because those who earned their status on the backs of Vegas trips, and I'm one of them, I used to earn gold on 1
Me
to 2 trips a
too.
year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot harder going forward to do that. So if
Like
that,
I'm gonna have to, I'm going in April. So if I can win like I did before, I could almost reach gold, which
right.
will be okay with me because
Gold's still
like
pretty good in the new system. It certainly doesn't
it
give you
is,
everything,
it
but you
is.
still get some stuff.
What I want to see, Josh, is if I'm gonna be getting my same comps that I got before because I still don't know. So because
I don't expect comps to be impacted by this because comps are based on your gambling and it's
well,
therefore based on your
I'm
losses and your
fine
coin
with
in.
that. Like
It's
that's
your
what
ADT and Theo,
everybody
frankly.
I
So
think is hoping for. Really, I hope that that is the truth. Because like I said, before you guys, like what I was saying, this time I put in 18,000, I think, and I timed that uh I figured it out, Josh, and it was so how many times like I would have to go to get to platinum for what I played, and it was a lot.
well, yeah,
Like
if you're only getting 34,000 points with a 2x, that's 17,000 per trip. That's going to be like 12 trips to get you to platinum.
exactly.
Now, you did mention that your bankroll for this trip was a little bit lower than your average, so that
Yeah, it was
obviously could have an
yeah, it was
impact.
half. It
So
was
so so that certainly will have an impact too. But again, you had a 2x multiplier, so theoretically that should have made up the difference. And the fact that it didn't tells you where we're going here.
yeah, but still, in the old program, it would usually only take me 3 trips with
Right.
$2,500 to $3,000.
Right.
So, and like I said, my coin in 2021 was 61,000 five
And you did
hundred.
almost a third of that in this trip, and you're not a third of the way to platinum. Exactly.
Exactly. And the years before, because I'm very consistent gambler, the years before were exactly the same: 63,000, 61, 69, all the way back to 2018. So that's how I'm comparing it from what because I've played on M Life for many, many years.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I always had a bit over $20,000 in coin in my head for gold, but I do play some video poker. I do play some of those games that gave you points at a slower pace. So that obviously, if I focus just on slots and I focus just on the ones that gave the most points, it would be lower for sure. So
Right.
yeah, I think what we're seeing here is one of the impacts of this change, which is it will be harder. Now, the flip side to that is they're giving more cash value items for those who are meeting gold and platinum going forward. So that's probably how they're covering those expenses, is by making those
Right.
statuses harder to achieve.
Well, all I can tell you is that I'm going to be happy with gold because there's no way that like even that I would be able to make platinum unless I won huge jackpots. I mean, I've even made platinum in one trip before when I've won like 15,000, you
Oh,
know.
of course. If you have a lucky trip, all bets are
Yeah,
off. No pun
yeah.
intended, right? But
And that's what it's about, right? So, like one trip, out of all the years that I've played with M Life, that has been since 2008, has like I had one trip that I made it, and that's because I had like five friggin' hand pays,
right,
and basically I took home what they take away from me in Canada. So my 30% of 15,000, and I played the rest, and it got me to my platinum in one trip. But yeah, now I don't see it happening because when I just kept watching this and I kept playing, and like I was playing all my winnings,
yep,
plus what I had, except like I said, I took home 500 of my $1,200, and that was it. And I was just like, wow. Like I know my points would have been up over 75,000. I would have made it to gold probably
right.
in normal, because usually it took me 3 trips to play, to knowing how much you win, right?
Yeah, I mean, based on where you're tracking and the number of trips you have planned, I would say gold is certainly achievable. And
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
again, if you
well,
have a
gold
lucky
will be
trip, who knows?
achievable because I'm going in April. But like I said, that's going to help me because I'm going again in September.
Double points. Yep,
So, I should be able to make gold. Like I'm hoping anyway.
yep.
Because I mean gold's a good level too. They have no resort fees, and like I said, for me, if I get the comps that I have now for what I play, I will be happy.
Right. Yeah, and again, I think comps are going to be the least affected by all of this because they're based on your play and not based on the status, right? So, when we talk about ADT and Theo, that'll become more apparent. But yeah, I think your offers will be less impacted. They might be more impacted by the fact that you went with a smaller budget, to be, if I'm being really honest,
Yeah.
right? Than the fact that your status or is one level or another.
Yeah.
So,
How
did we
how
want to
did
talk about
how
some of the changes with MGM Rewards, or
what's that?
did we want to talk about some of the changes to MGM
Yes.
Rewards, sort of the
Yes.
key changes here?
Yes. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Sure. So, for those who have not been following along, M Life rebranded itself as MGM Rewards effective February 1st. When I was in Vegas in January, they were already replacing the signs. They were quite efficient at updating that name as quickly as possible. And the big changes for 2022 are, one is what we're seeing here, which is sort of they've sort of hidden how they calculate tier points going forward. So they don't really tell you how quickly you're going to earn them, unless you're watching it like Leanne did. And we talked about this before your trip. We said let's see how you do and let's monitor it. So
Exactly.
this helps you understand what the new normal is. And then they've also added more concrete, what I call like actual cash value items that were not in place in the past. And some of it seems to be direct competition to Caesars, and some of it seems to be direct competition with hotel programs and how they work. So to give a couple of examples, when you're gold level, you now receive $100. They don't use the term celebration dinner like Caesars, but it's a dinner that you can
Mm-hmm.
get. So there's $100 of actual cash value. You don't get it if you earned gold last year. You will get it though if you earn gold this year, right? So if you take your 2 trips in April and September, once you hit that 75,000 point mark, you will then be eligible for that $100 dinner. So that's nice. And you have 12 months from the date you earn it. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm not coming back before the end of the year. So that's one thing MGM's doing that I think is very smart. So if you come back the following year in like March, you'll still have it available to you, even though you earned it the year before. So that's kind of cool. If you are platinum and above, you get a second dinner, which is worth $200, and you start getting things like the airfare credits to fly to places like Vegas, which can be, I believe, redeemed as free play or cash in their discretion. So it's probably going to be free play. Let's be honest. And then if you're
And it
noir,
says actually on their site, it says up to 600. It doesn't say 600.
right, because if your flight's 300, they're not going to give you 600, right?
Yeah.
So that's where people get clever about, I'm going to book the itinerary that's the closest to $600 so I can maximize my benefit and get the money back, right? Maybe
Yeah.
I upgrade my leg room or whatever the case may be. So, so those are examples of the other big thing, and you don't have to earn gold this year to be qualified for it if you're gold today or higher, is they are now waiving resort fees on bookings, even if your comp offer did not previously offer it. So one of the things about M Life that kind of stunk was you may not, even if you were gold, for instance, get resort fees waived on some of your offers if your offers weren't of a certain level. So for me, for the longest time, it would be Luxor, Excalibur, resort fees waived. If I want New York, which hasn't been renovated as recently as Luxor, oh, sorry, you have to pay $39 a night for that resort fee, even if the room itself is comped. And so now that goes away. If you are gold, you automatically qualify for the resort fee waivers. And so that's a great savings and a thing, that wasn't available before.
And
and
you'll actually deserve it for how much you play.
Yeah, I mean, and then especially now that it looks like the coin-in requirements are going up. So,
Yeah.
so there was always this thing where if you were in Las Vegas, you earned at a different rate than if you weren't in Las Vegas. If you spent on like hotel, you would earn 25 tier credits per dollar. If you spent the same money on a hotel in, say, DC or in Massachusetts, you would only earn 8 points.
We'll get to questions in a minute, guys.
And so then when they changed it, now it's normalized across the country, but it's 4 points per dollar. So they knocked both sides down. And so the thing I was sort of fearing was, what are they going to do to the gamblers, right? And so based on what you're seeing, I plan on doing some experiments when I get to MGM properties next. So when I go to Springfield next, for instance, I'm going to do techniques like do exactly $100 in wagers and see how many points I earn on X number of machines and see what the point earning levels is, because the app does update in real time.
See, I didn't do that part, Josh. I wanted to see how much money I took, like, the actual money I took compared to what I used to take last year, like on my, last year was a little bit different, but, before the pandemic, I would take 2,500 for, 4-night stay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that would do me perfect. Last year was a little different. I had to make that last a lot longer. So, it was really tough.
Right.
Because I was doing smaller bets, But this trip, that's why, it made a difference, because I could do higher bets because I knew I was only there for 3 nights. And it's like, woo!
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little nerdy about this because in the old way of doing things, certain slots did not earn at the same rate. So like if you were playing on like a lightning link, you would earn at a slower rate than if you were playing on some random no-name machine, right? And so what I want to understand is, have those changes also been changed, right? So like, is there such thing as a specialty slot anymore? Is video poker earning at a different rate? I expect it will be, right? But like, what are those differences now? And so the only way you can really compare apples to apples is to sit down at X number of machines, play exactly $100, reset the app, and see where your points are. And so, that's a nice, simple method of doing it. And I'll report back, obviously, on my site once I've had a chance to do that. I'm going to do it once in Springfield, I'm going to do it once in Vegas and see what the differences look like. And if I can play the same machines, obviously, I'm going to try to do that.
Well, and that was me the first night I got there. Like, like I said, I knew how much money I brought with me. And the money I spent that one night, and went up to my room and looked at my points, and I was just crying with Jackie, like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard.
Yep.
Like, I know that it was, but still, I played a lot of that money that I won. So,
but when you think about overall slot payback, that's all factored in. Most people do cycle their money multiple times, right? This time of year, I get questions like, hey, why does it say I spent $1 million on slots? I didn't put $1 million in the machine. Well, no, because you put $100 in the machine and you played $5,000 worth of bets. And that's what they're tracking when it comes to coin in and coin out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like that's where people get confused a lot of the time.
You're hoping to win. That's all I'm saying. Because if I went and took that money and didn't have any wins, my points would have been like crap.
Oh, and that's always the case, right?
Yeah.
If you just have a really crappy trip at the casino, the casino's gonna think you brought less money because, hey, she didn't play as much as normal. No, you just had a really rough ride at it. They can see the actual loss, but most casinos look at the Theo. Notice how I keep coming back to this. This is really an important stat in in casinos. But yeah, ultimately, what I want to understand is sort of like how bad these changes are. And so, I might. My hope is also to go to Atlantic City some point relatively soon. And so I'll also try Borgata, which went through their own conversion last year, and some changes seem to have been made versus the old way of doing things at Borgata. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so comps shouldn't be affected because comps are based on your budget and your losses
We're
and
praying.
all that kind
That's
of thing.
all I care
But
about. Is if I
the
can still
status
get
will
like
change.
good comps, I'm happy.
I suspect you'll be okay given the budgets you're bringing in your daily budget. I think
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Well, I went shorter than I normally did last time because I was only going for 3 nights, and I was like, okay, I got 3 nights, I got $1,200 and 500 free play. Let's see what happens, and I did really well.
But
Right.
that factors into their calculation, right? You didn't use as many resources. You only used 3 nights. They calculate what those 3 nights cost, right? And that's part of like, okay, we comped through this. This is what we got. How do we
Yeah.
feel about it? And then the offers are reset, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very simplistic way of,
Yeah,
of
I can't
how it
wait. I
works.
can't wait to see my next like offers. Like I already booked for April because I had 500 free play and 350 and food
You
comp.
can always
So
rebook if it goes up, is the way I look at it. So
that's right. Like I booked it because if it goes up or down, you can always change it, right? So that's what me and Jackie. Anyways, we'll answer some questions now. I think if you want to go back in the chat there,
So
Josh.
Roxay asked, until what date are they doing double points? So when they launched MGM Rewards, they announced the first 3 months will be double points. So that was February 1st through April 30th. So as it stands, that program will run through April 30th. So if you're going to Las Vegas over the next 2 months, you will continue to benefit from that double point scenario. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
actually
then it's gone.
then it's, well, assuming they don't do other point multipliers.
Yeah,
Caesars
they might.
has historically done point multipliers throughout the year, and they've been including Vegas lately. So, maybe MGM, feeling the competition, may do the same. So let's not assume it never comes back, but it certainly makes it harder on a regular day for sure. Oh,
Yeah.
good. She's going in March. So that means that'll.
Yes. That's good, Roxy. You want to go in March because I'm gonna need, like I said, I want 2 trips on this double pointer because
Yep.
I only made like 34,000. We'll see what I make next time. So hopefully I can win something.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an above average trip next trip, you could hit gold on the second trip, which at least would already guarantee you that dinner. So that's nice. Jackie was asking if the changes, would it matter now what hotel and casino you play at? So that's probably one of the biggest questions I still have. So given what Leanne experienced, my guess is it's probably becoming standardized nationwide under this, once the 2X goes away, of course. But it'll be very easy to tell by simply playing, let's say, 10 machines in Springfield and 10 machines in Vegas. And so I plan on doing that experiment as soon as practical, but I don't have a Vegas trip booked right now. So we'll have to see when that happens. But, if I continue to get anecdotal stories like this, it's going to probably reinforce what I believe, which is that I think it's going to be the same across the board now. And Josh Ray's been talking about sort of the Caesars model versus MGM. Caesars has always been more generous with rooms, especially for lower level play. And I don't think that changes. I think MGM is always going to be a little bit harder because they tend to bundle everything together. So you get the room and you get resort credit and you get free play. And so there's just a higher bar to clear to qualify for those things. But, I think that's just a difference in how they approach things. The other thing with Caesars that I'm waiting to watch for is that they manage Rio and they're planning on selling a strip property. So that means they're going to go from 9 hotels to 7. So what happens when more players, because they own more casinos now than ever, are competing for 2 hotels worth of rooms less? And I think that's when they're going to be able to be more sort of stringent with the comps. And I feel that day is coming soon. This is just my opinion, but when you have a lot less rooms to fill and a lot more people to fill them, it becomes a lot easier to be more particular on who you give those comps to. And El Dorado has a history of slashing comps whenever they can get away with it. So
yeah, do you think there's going to be any more like competition out there?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah?
So we already know that Hard Rock is buying the Mirage. And so the Mirage will be purchased by the end of the year, probably sometime in the second half of the year is what they're saying. It'll take them some time, obviously, to then convert. But Hard Rock is going to be launching a nationwide loyalty program to compete with MGM and Caesars and some of these others. So that will be available on the Las Vegas Strip once they make that conversion. So that's another so like if you're a player in Florida, you might start getting comps in Las Vegas to go to their property instead of MGM, and that could have an impact. Bally's is in the process of buying Tropicana. So Bally's will have Bally's, not Bally's like Bally's Las Vegas. Bally's is in and the new company Bally's that owns Bally's Atlantic City and like Twin River in Rhode Island and some other properties throughout the country that have all been branded Bally's in the last few months. And they have a nationwide card program now. So what's starting to happen is where MGM and Caesars were sort of like the big two, and then you had sort of like Boyd and
But you know what, Josh? You know why I think this is kind of unfair for us international people, because we can't play at, they don't have those, we don't
Yep.
have those benefits that you guys have.
Yep. That's certainly a challenge, but the good news is that MGM and Caesars will still be there with the same things they're offering. And at least for some players in Canada, there is Caesars Windsor, right? So there is that one opportunity if you're local to that casino. And then I know that people who live there
Yeah,
also
but
Detroit,
that's
but
all in the big cities.
sure,
Like,
of
you
course.
know, we're not like anywhere near big, people aren't, I have a local here, but it's still, I can't just go and, unless I fly somewhere. Or I don't even know what Edmonton offers because I haven't been there forever. But they do have an Indian casino too, and I'm pretty sure River Cree is run part by Vegas, so maybe.
Yeah,
Don't
I
know.
mean, the other thing too is that just because they're not owned by one of the national properties doesn't mean that they don't make a deal with a national property. So, like here in Connecticut, where I am, Foxwoods for a long time had partnered with Caesars. So, if you were of a higher tier at Foxwoods, you would be able to book free rooms with Caesars because that was how Caesars enticed you to come out and stay with them and join their club when you're in Las Vegas. And so, those types of things can also exist too. So, even if you're in a market where you don't have one of these companies that are there and have a tie to Las Vegas, you might still have access, just like cruises, right? Some of the casinos partner with cruise lines and give away free cruise vouchers in a similar manner.
Hello, Delana.
So all of that is, just how the marketing department of your local casino works.
Mega has a question there, Josh.
Yeah. So how do they determine the slot dollars versus comps, rooms, and et cetera? So I think this is a good time to pick up that Theo and ADT conversation, right?
Okay.
So Theo is short for theoretical. So the way a slot machine works is that based on how the slot machine is designed, there is a set number of outcomes that can potentially happen. And so if you think about like a slot machine and the number of spaces that are on a reel, on a physical slot, there's usually 22, I believe is the number. So they could stop at certain places more often than others, but there's a certain number of positions that a slot can stop. So that means there's a certain number of total combinations, right? So when you go through every single combination through the random number generator, you'll know what percentage of the money will be paid back. And so that's how you get the payback percentage. And there can be 6 choices. So those payback percentage are the theoretical, right? So let's say the theoretical payback on a slot is 90%. So going back to my example earlier. So for every $100 that goes through the slot in the long term, right? This is not necessarily your session or my session, but over time, the slot will pay back 90% of what it takes in. Now, Leanne, you could get your $1,500 jackpot, right? And then I could sit down and play $300 and win nothing, right? Slots have a certain level of randomness to them, but the whole point of a theoretical calculation is if you kept sitting there and kept hitting the button through thousands and thousands and thousands of combinations, eventually over time, it's going to approach that 90% if that's what it's set up to pay, right? So when casinos calculate your offers, many times they won't look at your exact win-loss because you could have a great session or a horrible session, but they care about that coin in and how much you're betting and what types of games you're playing, right? So slots are more valuable to them than say blackjack, because blackjack has a smaller theoretical percentage if you play it right. Video poker can be a smaller theoretical percentage, right? So they calculate your comps based on how much they think they're gonna win off of you on an average visit. And so the more times you visit, the more coin in you do over time, they start to understand your patterns, and that's how these offers get established. Offers tend to be between 20 and 40% of what they expect you to lose. Offers usually incorporate everything. So that's what they offer you for your free play, what they offer you for rooms, what they offer you for food and beverage, gifts, those gifts that everybody go nuts for. That's all part of the package, right? So, if you're a player that loses $100 every time you go to the casino, you can expect between your hotel discounts, it's probably not going to be a comped hotel room at $100, right? Your free play, room and beverage, food and beverage rather, anything like that will probably land between $20 and $40 ish, right? Some casinos might be a little tighter, some casinos might be a little bit more generous, especially if they're trying to get you in more often. But that's the general range. And so, as you can expect, as your expected loss goes up, they're able to be more flexible with the offers because there's just more money to work with, right? And they also look at your visit frequency. If you visit less often versus more often, that can have an impact. They look at how far away you are. If you're a 4-hour drive, they know they're gonna probably have to give you a little bit more to get you to come in because it's a long time to drive just to come visit, and you're probably gonna have to give you a room, so they'll factor that in. So
Like, I hope they keep giving me because I have to fly from a different country.
I don't get great room offers for Springfield for MGM, even though I might go with the same level of budget. But they know that for me, it's an hour drive, so it's a day trip versus like going to Las Vegas, where they know I need a place to stay. So, and I'll probably be there for a few days, right? So it's like if I have that budget for 3 days instead of 1 day, ooh, that's great, right? So that all factors into it. And so ADT. So we talked about Theo. ADT is average daily Theo, right? So now let's say I visit 10 days and I lose I'm expected to lose $5,000 over those 10 days. My average per day is 500, right? Or if I'm expected to lose $1,000 over those 10 days, my average is 100. And so each day that you go just updates the average. They look at new play more sort of intensely than old play. If you were gambling $100 a trip 5 years ago, now you're gambling $1,000 a trip. Well, that $1,000 trip's going to get more weight because that's your recent play, right? But ultimately, that's how they sort of figure out what type of player you are and what type of offers they can generate for you based on that. And it's all computerized, so it's pretty cold. And I think,
Josh, too, the slot, what they're calling the slot dollars now, I think that's exactly like the point play.
So slot dollars was what they used to call points, and where 100 points was $1. Now they just write it out in dollars and cents, right? So I have $5.22 in slot play on my account right now, and it used to say 522 points. So it was literally, it's the same bucket, just written
exactly. Yeah.
And express comps, which used to be written out in dollars and cents, is now written out in points, but each point is worth a penny. So for every 100 points that you have today, used to be one express comp dollar. Before.
Yeah. Well, now, like when I know how it was before, was every 1,000, it was like $10 per point.
Right.
For point
so,
play.
So the value, and
it's
basically
the same now. It's basically the same.
Right. So
they're calling it something different.
They renamed it, and just to be confusing, the thing that wasn't points is now points, and the things that was points is now not points. And then if you have an MGM Rewards credit card, good luck, because now there's another type of points, a third type of points, which can be converted to one or the other. So, I've been getting questions about the credit card because the credit card's been a bit confusing, but I think it's just because they rolled this out so fast. But like you now earn MGM Reward credit card points, which can be converted to slot dollars or the MGM reward points. The other thing that changed, aside from all of the things we talked about, some of the cash flow, they did water down other things. So for instance, there used to be a point multiplier on the express comps that now is the MGM rewards dollars or whatever it is, right? So reward points. This is so confusing even for me at this point, and I've been dealing with this for 2 months. But they took away the point multiplier on the comps. They left it for the slot dollars. So the comp, I'm just pulling it up here so I have my language correct. Yeah, the MGM reward points multiplier is gone. The slot dollar based on your tier, and the slot dollars point multiplier that has remained. So you don't earn comps as quickly anymore either if you're a higher status, which kind of sucks. So not only do you not earn the tier credits as fast, but you also don't earn the comps as fast.
Roxy asked you a question there.
Where did that question?
Have you heard?
So the Cosmos sale is not complete yet. And so first half of 2022 is what they said when they announced it. I presume that's still on track because otherwise they would have updated that announcement. And then, systems updates to move to a new program. So they have to migrate Cosmo to MGM Rewards. Takes time. I've seen it take, like Caesars is still converting properties to the Caesars Reward program. If you go to Tropicana Law Firm, they're not even sure when it's going to happen. But because Cosmo's on the same system as Aria, from what I can tell, I think it'll be a little bit faster. So I would expect it's going to be done this year.
Anna, we know why you like the Plaza, because you love Brian Christopher.
For what it's worth, the Plaza's changed their comp program in some way almost every year for the last 5 years. And so, even with a simple program that's one casino like the Plaza, there's constantly changes that you have to be aware of because, your points may not be worth as much or may take
that's what I'd like to know. too. Those smaller casinos are like, if I go play as, because I have played at some of the, smaller casinos, Gold Coast and those places like that, but I don't get much from them.
Yeah, it just like anything else, it depends on how much coining you ultimately do, and what games you're playing, right? So, like for instance, I generally feel that smaller casinos with simpler programs and not as many things that they can offer tend to be more generous with what you earn. So, for instance, if we take the Plaza, you earn a point per dollar, right, on slots, and it's only 250 points to redeem for a dollar, right? So it is easier to earn those points and to redeem those points for value. There are not as many things to redeem them on, right? So they have to make it up in some other way. And so, yeah, national programs tend to be frankly cheaper because they have a network that they can promote. And so, that's the benefit, right? I can earn comps in location A and I can spend them in location B. I'm not restricted, but there's a cost to that, right? Whereas, smaller casinos, regional casinos, ones that aren't affiliated with the national chain, as a general rule, seem to be more generous.
Mm. How about you guys? Do you have any more questions you want to ask? Because we're just, like I said, throwing in what we know from my trip. And like Josh said, he's going to go on a trip in the future and check out at his local casino how some of the stuff is
Uh,
changed. I go back in April. So I'm gonna watch my play there as well and see compared to how much I take and what I win.
So there's a question that was submitted to me offline that I
Okay,
wanted
yeah.
to bring into. So the player in this case was saying that there's two casinos, presume the same payback, but one's busier than the other. Does that mean that you're winning? There's people are winning more at one than the other. Statistically, no, but sometimes people prefer one casino over another. The amenities, they feel lucky, or whatever the case may be. If you have two casinos and the payback's the same, and you feel like you're doing better at one, no harm in just sticking to that one, right? There are a lot of situations like in Atlantic City, for instance, where you have 9 casinos competing for the same attention. Their paybacks tend to be in a similar range. One may have better perks at certain denominations than another, and so if you're that player, that might be smart to prioritize. But overall, it's probably not going to make a huge difference in the long run.
Mm. Okay, you got some questions coming in here.
Yeah. So let's take Araxes first about Lightning Link. So Washington State is weird because it's a none of the above state in some ways. They have, similar to New York, machines that don't work off of bingo, but they're still not, RNG machines where the outcome is determined inside. I think the best analogy is like scratch tickets. You're buying, out of a pile of scratch tickets with a preset number of winners and losers. So I don't know if the Lightning Link in this case is
Kids
based off of
again.
that system, but I know that I saw something
Oh,
about
Kia
like
Bell.
Lightning Link being available with bingo. So I imagine they've mapped that scenario and done it now here. We have, for instance, Firelink in New York, and it works really weirdly because you actually see repeated bonus outcomes. I actually have a friend who saw the same exact bonus to the penny with the balls in the same exact places 3 times in one night because there's only a certain number of types of outcomes that the machines can handle. So it's probably going to play a little bit differently, even though like it'll be as volatile as Lightning Link will be.
Yeah.
Why are table games graded so low? Because they don't pay the casino as much money. Like if you have a slot machine that pays you 10 or 12% versus roulette that pays you 5, and roulette's in the high end of table games, right? Unless you're playing 000 roulette, and then God bless you. But those, simply put, less wagers, right? Think about, you can do 400 to 600 spins an hour on a slot machine, and that factors in you might not be spinning at times because of bonuses, right? So you can do 600 wagers an hour. So compared to roulette, how many times an hour can they spin that ball around the wheel? It may seem like you're wagering a lot, but like even if you're doing 50-cent spins versus a $10 wager on roulette, the slots are going to have more wagers overall, and you're doing it with a twice the house edge. So that's why table games don't tend to earn you comps at the same pace, because frankly, you're just not wagering as much money and putting as much against the house edge. So that's why you won't see table games.
Yeah, and they lowered that too, I think, in M Life, didn't they, Josh?
Well, they giveth and they taketh away. I think you now finally earn comp dollars for the first time. So like that was something that they only did in certain properties. So in Vegas now, if you're playing table games, you don't just earn the tier credits, but now you're going to earn some MGM reward points along with it. That's an improvement. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they tinkered with the tier credit earnings across the board, given the changes.
So has anybody in the chat is anybody in the chat been to Vegas lately and seen the difference? Let me know if you have.
Kia Bell, the good news is if they were comping drinks before, and for players, you'll still get your comp drink. So you hopefully get 100% off that Coke. Let's just hope it's not $100 Coke, because that tends to be unfortunately how it works for me. Is I'll just put a bill in and I'll order because there's the cocktail waitress, and then like 35 minutes later, it's like, where's my $100 and where's my drink?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Many times. It's like, really? I gotta wait? That means I gotta put more money.
Yeah. And so we talked about when Cosmo will become part of MGM. The Mirage is going to be second half of 2022. I think Tropicana becomes part or is owned by Bally's pretty soon, but Bally's is talking about potentially knocking it down as one of their options. So it might not be a Bally's right away. They might actually start from scratch. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, just going through some of the notes here.
But I think the main thing is you should always get a card wherever you play, right, Josh?
You should still use your card. You should still earn what you can, because one of the only guaranteed paybacks you'll get, regardless of whether you win or lose, is whatever the casino gives you for your next trip. So those comp dollars you earn in real time.
Well, you know, like I told my friends, they never went to Vegas before, and they went with me one trip. And, you know, I said, just play on your card. And they weren't high rollers. Like
Sure.
they weren't even medium. They were low rollers. So, you know, and they might have went with $500 for 3 days. But when they got home, guess what? They were excited because they got, you know, $75 in free play, 2 nights comped,
yep.
$50 food credit, because they caught them, you know. It's like, oh, we want you to come back no matter what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the very first time I ever went to Vegas, I stayed at New York. I paid a ridiculous amount of money because it was 2 days piggybacked off after a work trip where I was staying for a convention, so work covered the room. And, you know, off the back of that, I started getting 2-night comps. I had to pay resort fees, but that was it. And I was getting a little bit of slot play and a little bit of food. And I was excited by that. It was really nice to have that additional opportunity. And, you know, as I've learned more about how this works, I've tried to be a bit smarter about how I do this. And, you know,
exactly.
Even when I went to go visit the slot cats at Rampart last year, I was able to. I'm getting offers from Rampart, you know, for some free play. So if I do go back, you know, and I'm not starting from scratch, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, well, that's like Jackie. She goes off and plays, you know, at Red Rock, or, you know, when she's there with baby girl, and she'll go to Silverton and stuff, and she gets offers like from them too. So like that's good. And my thing about the offers and stuff like that, you know, like I'm pretty satisfied for the amount of money that I spend and the nice rooms that I get. If I had to pay that by cash, like, you know, just being myself, going to Vegas and wanting, you know, this suite, that suite, I'm paying $400-500 a night for a suite. Yet, okay, so if those suites are that much, that's $1,500 in 3 nights I'd be paying, right? But here, yet I can take $2,500 with me on a 4-night trip, get all those nights comped, plus a $350-400 food credit, and pay no resort fees.
Right.
And I get to enjoy my gambling, you know. But normally I would have to take double, because if I had to pay it and enjoy my $2,500 that I take gambling, it would be $5,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the trade-off, right? You're basically, you know, based on the amount you're willing to gamble on a trip, they're willing to offer you certain perks to come and do it with them. Right. So, you know, it's, you know, I said earlier that when I started, Luxor and Excalibur was my no resort fee. Somewhere I kind of moved up a little bit, and I started getting like Delano, and I started getting, MGM Grand, and I started getting New York,
Mm-hmm.
New York. And so I've stayed now twice in one of those Delano sort of strip view, king suite kind of situations. And, that's a huge upgrade from what I was
It
getting years
is.
ago.
And
So
like
even
I
though, by the way,
used
the
to
Luxor
stay in
suite,
places,
uh,
that I couldn't afford because I mean, when I was younger, I didn't have the money. So, but the older I get and the more money you make and stuff like that, okay. But still, even back then, um, like you look at the rooms, like I know my friends, like they stayed at, I'm not going to mention the property, but they were really disappointed. And they said, well, it was cheap. But guess what? They might be cheap, but they said they wouldn't want to stay there again.
right.
So
Well, and again, like the other thing to keep in mind, and this is what I mentioned before. So, like, if your casino is not linked to a national property, there's still opportunity. So, like, one of my home casinos is Mohegan Sun. They took over the casino for Virgin Las Vegas, which was the old Hard Rock. Um, they sent me a 3-room night offer that happened to time out with when I was going to go out last fall. Based on that, I'm now continuing to get 3-room night offers, but now they're giving me free play, right? And so I went back and I did it, played exactly the same level as before. So my expectation is the offer will be exactly the same as before, right? So, and the resort fees are waived and all this good stuff. And so it's like, if I need to, many times if you're going out for a longer trip, you can't stay in one place forever because they're only going to comp you for a certain number of nights. They figure they've got as
yes,
much money as you're going to get. So I always have a couple of plan B sort of scenarios. And so I used to do M Life, or now MGM and Caesars, but frankly, Caesars and I have not been getting along in terms of like any chance of winning at all. So I've been doing more downtown, close to
yeah,
like Anna and Plaza. Plaza has been great
hmm,
to me. I had a really nice
yeah,
room there in January.
yeah.
I've done, Virgin and other places just to shake it up a little bit.
Yes, Kia Bell, you absolutely, anywhere you play, you want to get a card, regardless if it's $20 you put in or anything. Because even, I went to Win property one time and I maybe played $40 with my friend. We both put in $40 and I still got an offer from them. It was like a 2-night stay. I didn't get anything with it. I think it was a 2-night stay. I had to pay resort fees, and they gave me a $25 food credit. But you know what? I only spent $40 there.
Right.
So it was like, okay, well, maybe if I wanted to go there one time and give it a try, I had that option. With a
Mhm.
little bit, I would have to pay a little less.
Right.
So it's still good no matter where you go.
In many in
Like I
many
said,
cases in Las Vegas too, you get a discount even for being a player's card member. So just having the card gives you a discount, and then you
yeah,
get the email promotion. So if you're not at a level where you're getting free rooms, you can at least chip away at the bill, right? Like no one should ever pay the room rack rate that you see signing in without a card, and just buying it outright, right? Like then start checking the Expedias of the world and things like that at a certain point. Or
yeah.
I've written about this before. Many properties on the strip or nearby are affiliated with your
Hi,
main hotel
David.
chain. You know, Caesars is affiliated with Wyndham. MGM is affiliated with, I believe is it Hyatt? The Rio is going to be Hyatt. Resorts World is Hilton. The list goes on, right? Cosmo with Marriott. So if you have an affiliation with those programs, you might have points that you can use to book a room for free, right? So there are other ways to also get yourself comp rooms, even if you haven't gambled a single cent in Las Vegas. And then
Yes,
again, if you have gambled at a regional property like your Borgatas, you might have offers available to you for Vegas because they want you to come try their property. So there's a variety of different ways to
exactly. I
track
get
the
them
world.
in mind, Josh. Like, I'm from Canada, but when my offers come up, I don't get the same offers as I do in Vegas from there, but I still get some offers to come there or whatever. And who knows if I might get in contact with them or whatever, I might get the same benefits as I do in Vegas. I don't know because I've never done it.
Kissy Cat's right. Also, if you're going to go, time it for the week, right? Go Sunday through Thursday. You're going to get a better rate than Friday and Saturday. So if you have the
Ex-
flexibility of dates when you can travel, that's also something to keep in mind too.
yep,
Time your
I
trips
always say that.
or off
I
season,
always say
right?
that.
No one wants to go to
And
Vegas in the winter.
it helps if you're not a big gambler too, with your comps because they're expecting you, like Jackie said, they're expecting you to cover your comps with your play. So, but on the weekend, they hike those up, and that's because everybody comes from California and all over, and everybody's got those days off. So it makes a huge difference, and that's when they do the same thing when there's a big thing in town, right? All
Yep.
the room rates go up like hugely.
Yep. Yep. The rodeo, EDC,
Yeah,
March Madness,
yeah,
and I was there, as I said, in January, and there was two events at Allegiant Stadium there, and it was so different on the strip on those days versus like a Wednesday. And so yeah, it's very
nice,
interesting.
David. That's good.
Oh, look at that. Rocksave's getting additional free play for staying weekdays. Yeah, because they're still having trouble filling weekdays because conventions haven't come back fully. So that gives them the ability to fill the hotel
I'm
rooms a
going
little.
on weekdays. Woo-hoo. My next trip's weekdays. I don't care. Like I used to always go on the weekdays. I don't know. I just always I have more luck on the weekdays for some reason. I'm not saying that, anything about it, but I'm just saying more, like I was just telling Jackie, like when I go with her, it's like Thursdays, right? Thursdays, it's usually my last days or the beginning of my trip. It's usually the beginning of my trip, like Mondays, or the end of my trip, Wednesday or Thursdays, that I win. Like it's something big. Weekends suck for me. I can't win on weekends.
Yeah, I mean, my winnings have mapped across the week in Vegas, and my losses and losses have too. But the thing
Yeah.
that I like about weekdays more so is that I don't have as much competition for the games I want to play. And so it's like, if you want to get on those popular titles on a Saturday night, it's going to be difficult to impossible. But on a Tuesday afternoon, it's going to be easy as cake. So
Yeah.
that to me is also a valuable sort of side effect of the timing of a trip.
Yeah. I always say I always say that is because I this is just my thought, my just my mindset when I go to Vegas is like, okay, I always win like on the Monday and Tuesday because everybody's been there on the weekend and shoved all their money in the slots. or I always win just before the weekend because I suck all the money out of the slots and everybody's coming for the weekend. So I just like that's my mindset for
Of
it.
course,
Everybody
and
has
and
it
it
different.
wouldn't be know your slots if I didn't say that the timing of day or the time of the week has no impact on slot machine paybacks.
Yeah,
The casinos aren't constantly
yeah,
tinkering with it
that's
because there's not
right.
a lot of value to it. Like
That's
think about
right.
it. I'm gonna
But
up it by
everybody
one
has
percent
their
for the
own,
three. You know,
thing.
people have their superstitions for
That's
sure.
right. That's
There's
that's
there's
my
plenty of superstitions.
that's my superstition. Yeah.
Um, Frontier Tina notes Sahara and Venetian affiliated with IHG. So Venetian did just complete their sale, but it went from one sort of independent-ish owner to another. So I wouldn't necessarily say that that link will be broken. It really depends on what the new owners want to do, but they could very well remain affiliated with IHG. So I wouldn't necessarily say anything's going to change there because they're not affiliating with someone that has like a pre-set partnership already. So hopefully that stays put. Oh, that's cool, David. David won a jackpot at Treasure Island, and they gave 25 in free play. They've been bribing me with free play, but they're demanding a stay, and so, and I don't get a free room. So it's like, well,
Oh, at Treasure
then,
Island, eh? Yeah.
yeah. I hear they're much more generous with people who start staying there on the regular. So I figure, I guess they want one paid stay,
Oh,
and then they'll
see,
start to
Little
bribe
Bit
you.
has the same mentality. Thank you. I'm not the only one that thinks that.
Oh, a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
There's some people who think that the casinos pay less on the weekends, and then I see some people who think casinos pay more on the weekends,
Yeah.
and it's like, that
Well,
can't,
it's
to me,
just
that
it's
cancels
just
out.
my experience I go by. That's all. Is I'm not telling people that it's just my experience. That's
Oh,
all.
sure. Yeah, I think honestly, certain things just stick in people's minds, and then once it's stuck in your mind, you kind of start connecting dots that may or may not be there. But like, it's relatively harmless, right? Because like, if the casino really isn't making any changes, then it doesn't matter what time you show up; it's going to be the same sort of
Yeah.
scenario.
But
So,
have you ever noticed? This is another thing I've noticed. Like, I know, I know. I mean, I watch a lot of slot play and slot channels and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I see different resorts winning a lot. Like, I see a lot of wins at, say, Mandalay Bay. Then I see winning at Cosmo. And then all of a sudden, you'll see a bunch of Cosmo and not, I don't,
I mean, that's the elements of randomness that exists, right? Like, a slot machine could literally jackpot back to back. It doesn't happen very often, but it can, right? So if
yes.
you're in the right, you got the you hit the button twice in the right time, that can work out. But I think, again, we just sort of observe and we sort of see these things and we lock it in the back of our head. And if we see it a few times, we start to detect it as a pattern, whether or not that pattern is real, right? So, that's the thing. If you think about like MGM, it's very, very, very likely that every single one of their casinos in Las Vegas have paybacks that are within a very small tolerance of each other because they're a corporation. They have a certain amount of money they want to make. And the way that you do that is you set those numbers at a level that that based on the amount of gambling happening, this is what we're going to make, right? So, ultimately, I wouldn't expect big changes from one casino to the other. Now, Cosmo versus MGM could be different, and Cosmo versus Caesars or Caesars versus MGM because they're different companies, right? They may have different goals. There's data to back up that sometimes those differences actually happen. Because like if you look in Atlantic City, you can actually look at the difference between, say, Borgata and Caesars. And you can see like on penny slots, one pays more than another consistently. And so that's where you start to understand like what their mindset is. The other thing you can do, and this is one of those things that I encourage everybody to do, is if you ever see them moving machines around, they have a little piece of paper taped onto each slot machine. Usually that piece of paper also says what the payback percentage for that machine is going to be. So I will usually take a very casual walk around and take a quick glance. And many times it reinforces what I sort of think a property is doing. And I've seen this in a few cases, and I've been sometimes pleasantly surprised. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, this makes sense why this has been such a tough place to play. So, that data is out there in certain places. You can see and obviously this doesn't work for tribal casinos. This doesn't, unless they do tape those papers too. I have seen them in Connecticut, but they report data. But like that information may sometimes very well be available, and sometimes not, depending on what types of games they have.
Right. So you guys got any more questions you'd like to ask Josh while he's here? We got a few minutes left, and more than happy to. I mean, Josh is so informative, and that's why I wanted to have him back and just compare, and let him pick it apart and see if it's what I thought it was. And Jackie too, she said the same thing. She said Jackie thought that they were moving it towards what Brigada and them were doing. So
that in my mind was the worst case scenario, and I was a little fearful that was going to happen too. And I think just your one data point, we'll see more as this goes along, but I suspect that that's what they're doing.
And a lot of people are not liking it, Josh. Do you think that if enough people that they would end up changing it?
So there's always a chance that they see things go in a horrible direction and they change it. But the problem is there are people who are upset with the way that Caesars has been making changes and have been shifting to MGM. And so the problem is if that outflow from Caesars and that inflow from Caesars equals out, then they don't really care, right? They're still getting the same benefit regardless. And then the amount of perks that they have
because you have nowhere else better to go.
Right. So I think the wild card is going to be these new national programs and how much they siphon away business, right? So if Bally's is now on the Strip and Hard Rock is now on the Strip and San Manuel, and someone asked when the Palms is opening, I think it's April.
Yeah.
Right? So the San Manuel is going to have the Palms. And so a lot of those California travelers may stay loyal, especially if those cards become linked.
Right.
Those things could have an impact, and MGM might have to get more competitive. So what you might start seeing first is, hey, more point multipliers or more promotions like
maybe
that.
Maybe they're rubbing their hands together right now and getting prepared. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that it's easier to add from a lower baseline than to take away from a higher, right? So now that the baseline's lower, they can possibly do things if they need to make up some of the difference without going all the way back to where they started, right? So the 2X is one example. We'll see what happens going forward. But
yeah, because there's actual MGM group that I'm in, and it has like 28,000 people, and there's a lot of people complaining about it. It's just like me, how much I seen from how much I played, when usually, I'd be, so normally with the money that I took, if I took my normal money, I would have been at 34,000, right? If it was only one multiplier, but it was two multipliers.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Megan's got a good question, but first, Roxy, I don't have a trip planned yet. I'm looking at it, so I'll definitely share once I have that. And then advice on more points with the same bankroll. So what I always tell people to look at is the volatility of a machine. There are games that are feast or famine machines. Either you hit a big win and you kind of walk away, or it burns your cash very fast. And the problem with those games are you don't get that recyclable element if you don't get that big bonus. And so there are game series like Quick Hit, Quick Spin, that the old three-reel mechanical slot machines, older slots that are like more than 10 or 15 years old, that are usually designed to pay smaller amounts more often. They're designed for you to keep putting the money back in over and over and over again. And so they tend to give you more points, and they tend to be more even of a ride. So you might not get necessarily a big win as often, but if you're trying to chase those points, if you're trying to get to gold and you're like short, they are more likely to help you get there than a game like Lightning Link, where either you have to get the Lightning Link bonus to really get paid, or if you don't get it, you just get skunked very quickly, and then okay, now where are my points? I don't have my points. So if you're trying to get points, games that are more even rides that pay smaller amounts more often, they can still pay big, but they're designed most often to give you smaller pays. Those actually help you because they're kind of giving you the fuel you need to keep going.
Yeah. Well, I basically play I play Lightning Link, I play Dragon Link, I
Yep.
play Buffalo Link.
Yep.
Those are my kind of, and Locket Links. Those are my kind of go-to.
They're very
I
popular,
can go and play other games, and I give them a try. And if they're not doing nothing for me, I go back to the games that you normally win money on.
I'm exactly the same as you in reverse. I
Yeah.
find the links tend to be very difficult to
Yeah.
me. And like when I put $50 in, I'm doing $1 spin and nothing happens after $50. It's like, well, this is frustrating. I don't really want to keep waiting to try to get these damn balls. So I'm going to move on. Firelink's the exception. That one seems to give me a little bit more of a chance. I don't think it's quite as tough, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I just find the links to be a little bit too tough for my
And that's
budget.
another thing. I think we all have our go-to games where, what's good to us. Because many times I've won on, the games I love. And then I'm like, okay, I got some money. I'm going to go try some new ones. And I go and I just lose. And it's like, damn, why did I do that?
Well, then the flip side happens. Sometimes you sit down a machine you never played before and you win big, and it's like, and then you keep going back to it's like, I had such a good time, but you
Yeah.
can never replicate that experience. It's like it was a one in 10 kind of game.
It hasn't happened to me yet, but someday maybe.
Oh, sure. I certainly have it. It happens to me, unfortunately, a little bit more often than I admit. And like, I got a dancing drums from Major really early, and then I've never had one since. So
yeah. Hey, PJ. Thanks for coming. Anyways, you guys, we're running up here on the hour, so I know it's Sunday evening. Everybody might have to get to work tomorrow and stuff. So, but we want to thank Josh for coming and giving us his all his knowledge he knows about this. I always enjoy it. I always love hearing it and I always love talking to somebody about it because, like I said, I'm not a reader. I read some stuff, but it's nice to just get that information.
before we
And
wrap up,
I think we dropped Josh's link in the chat again. And so you guys should anytime you're looking for anything that you want some information on the slots or travel or anything, even cruises Josh does. You should go over there and just check it out, and you'll find it for definitely sure, because he always posts something.
before we
And
wrap, if I could jump in, I do want to get on my soapbox for 2 minutes. Because there's a video floating around from someone who identifies himself as a slot tech, and a lot of my content comes out of what I'm seeing in the forums and the social media groups and so forth. And this one's been floating around, and it hurts me when I see bad information out there because I think it makes people more suspicious of things than they need to be. So I just want to, I have a post coming up Saturday. So for those who really want to dive in, and I quote experts from this, your free play pays at the same payback percentage as your cash. So if you're playing on free play, the machine doesn't detect that it's free play and suddenly drop the free play payback percentage.
You're also welcome.
Slots do not have two settings for this. Many jurisdictions do not allow this. It's against gaming regulations, so the machines are tested to make sure they don't do this. But I just wanted to put it out there because a lot of people are reading it and getting concerned about it or saying, yeah it makes
so
sense.
If you heard a rumor out there about your free play and not getting, it's not the truth.
Yep, and you'll see quotes from people who've designed games and so forth. So
Yeah,
that post will be up Saturday. But I've written about it in the past, but I'm reinforcing it because
yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of people fall for it, and there's other
yeah.
things in that video that are bad too.
And
So I'm
like I
excited
told
about it.
Josh, a matter of fact, all the free play that I've gotten over the years, and I do trips 3, 4 times a year since
Yep.
forever. And I've never like I told him, I said I at least get half of my free play back, if not double it, and if not like at least my 500 if they give me 500. Like
My video poker royal flush on free play has probably paid for 13 bad scenarios that I've had that were from other attempts, right? So
exactly, exactly. But I mean, there are people out there that I know and I've seen in the groups that have said, oh, they got 500 free play and they were doing $25 a bet and they didn't get nothing. Well, go
20
figure.
20 spins on a slot machine is going to be very high variability as to what your outcome is going to be. Some people
Exactly.
play free play like it's, like this
Yeah,
is my chance in high limit and they don't realize what they're doing, where I treat it like my bankroll. So if I have
me
$50 in
too.
free play and I have
I do the
$500 in
same
cash,
thing.
the
I might
$50 gets
do
bet the same level as the
Yeah,
500.
I might do, if I have 100 or so, 500, I'll do like maybe 100 of it on $5 bet. And then I'll do, go lower or whatever, just because I just play with it. But I
Sure.
never ever do like $25 spins and stuff like that on my free play, or it's just gone, just like
Right.
that.
Well, but here's the thing: if that's what you want to do, if you want to swing for the fences, that's
Oh,
great.
yeah,
But you have to
you
accept the flip
can.
side of that,
But
which
I'm
is that
telling
you're
you,
going to get
I've done
skunked.
it, Josh, a few times, and it's just gone like that.
Oh, I like that little bit of nothing.
I've had way more success in doing my $1.50, 250 bets on my free play and getting it back.
Yeah, a little bit of nothing says I need at least 50 spins on a slot. I used to do the math and whatever I was betting, I would put 50x in. That was sort of my system. It's gotten harder now because some of the games are too volatile for that. Like that was like 10 years ago, but 50 spins isn't a bad system. I certainly respect that for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Josh, and thank you, everybody, and make sure you hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we'd appreciate it if you would. We are at 1,160 right now. Also, we are on TikTok, and eventually I want to do some lives on there. And we
Nice.
are at 830 followers there. And I just threw out a video on there, and it's got like over 2,000 views on it in the past couple of days. So you can check us out on TikTok as well. So
And if I may, know your
hopefully
slot.
I'm at 1,000 by April on TikTok, and then I can do a little TikTok live. I
That's
just want
awesome.
to try it out.
And on my
So
side for social, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm not LinkedIn. Twitter,
yeah,
Facebook, Instagram is where I am. Sorry,
yeah,
my day job is
Josh,
on LinkedIn.
yeah,
Know your
make sure you
slots,
put
all one word. And I just hit 1,000 followers on both Twitter and on
that's
Instagram. So
That's so awesome. I'm not a tweeter, but I just don't get it.
it's a good medium for me with the written
I
word. So
know there's so many things out there. I just like my Facebook, the YouTube, and TikTok. That's basically I like.
no worries at all.
There's so many I got to do, but it's okay. I just get overwhelmed by it, so I'm just like. But anyways, okay, everybody. We want to wish you a very lovely week ahead, and yeah, we don't. I don't know. We're sticking out a video this week sometime when I get some time, but otherwise, my next trip is in April. I think Gypsy Baby Girl is going to be doing some live in the future here. I'm not too sure, but we do have a premiere of Karen's coming up, and it is good. Let me tell you, it is good. And
Yay.
she was low rolling, and she hit it big. So you gotta watch it. And yeah, it's exciting. I like stuff like that because you know when you see these guys doing $50 bets and getting a jackpot, and I see somebody doing the 80-cent bet and getting as much jackpot, that's more exciting to me than betting $50.
Oh, I know. I've had 3 majors on 88 cents, and every single one of them was exciting because it's just such a big
Yes.
win on such a small bet.
Yes. But anyways, okay, Josh, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks always for your knowledge, and hopefully someday we'll get to have you back. Who knows what's going to change in this Vegas world?
Of course.
Mm.
Thanks for inviting
But
me
we
back, and
really
thanks
enjoy
everybody for
you,
joining us.
and of course, you can see everybody else in the chat enjoys you too. So, all right, guys, this gypsy's out. Have a good week.
Good night.
Bye.